Thanks to World XR Forum for inviting to this lovely location to have this conference. So I'm Andrew Dickerson. I'm the head of engineering in Dallas, Texas, for Samsung Electronics. We've worked on AR and VR for many years, starting in about 2010, 2011. I'll share a little bit about that story in just a minute. But just from a showing of hands in the room, how many people work for a company that uses volumetric video in some way or another? How many people think there's a distribution pipeline for volumetric video? One distribution pipeline, okay. So I posit that the average person doesn't understand what volumetric video is, what advantages it has, and we're really looking to find ways to help scale volumetric video. And I'll kind of explain why we've come to that conclusion in the past here. So, a little bit about my background. I was on the team that created the first Gear VR back in 2011-ish. Started with the dive masks here on the first shelf. We made 3DOF. We scaled it to tens of millions of users. And then we decided along the way, we really need to find a way to bring content from the real world into Gear VR. So 6DOF or 3DOF experiences. So we made a back-to-back phone with wide-angle lenses on it that eventually became the Gear 360 camera, which is a UGC camera to make 360 videos. And then another team took that idea and made a professional camera, the 360 round, which does stereoscopic 360 real-time live. And we released a service called Milk VR in 2014 when the Gear VR first came out on the Note 4. That service is now called Samsung VR Video, which we are rebranding to Samsung XR in the next month. But we still very much believe that 360 video as a storytelling element and as an experience has really come into its own over the last few years. And we really see volumetrics as the same as 360 videos were back in 2012, 2013 when we first started there. No tools, no capture ability, very, very unknown to the user, and no distribution pipelines. So my team's goal is really to try and ease creators' pain in getting their content out to the world and telling stories. We are not the storytellers, we're just the OEM, but we really want to help folks get their content out there and make money at it. So we have a mobile app that currently has 360 videos in it. This is a picture of it. We are going to add volumetric videos as a format to that 360 video service. So it will have some that are 360 videos, some that are volumetrics, and then potentially some that are combinations of the two. We're in 55-something countries. We're the most used 360 video service in VR that I'm aware of because we're preloaded on the Gear VR Go, Samsung Odyssey. We're on the Rift. We're on iOS even, which is rare for a Samsung service. Yeah, so there's in-app purchasing in this service, so 360 videos are being sold today in this service, and volumetrics will be sold as well through the same system. So this is kind of our distribution pipeline. We're going to talk a little bit about SXR Studio in a minute, which is our volumetric capture stage, but we're on all these headsets. We take content in not just from our own cameras, but from any 360 video camera. Our content curation manager is sitting here in the front row. If you have 360 videos that you want to have surfaced up high in our service, talk to her. And yeah, so we have a wide distribution pipeline, lots and lots of viewership, lots of analytics over the last 4 or 5 years of 360 video and Gear VR and all these other headsets. So we have a pretty good sense of what works and what doesn't work. So let's talk about Samsung XR Capture Studio. Back in 2014, we had started experimenting with 6 Degree of Freedom headsets, and it became clear that 3DOF headsets would eventually be overtaken by 6DOF headsets. And then, what does that mean for capturing content from the real world? So we started creating our own volumetric capture stage back in 2014 just out of a need to have content to experiment with. It wasn't really that we wanted to create a business out of capture studios. It was just that we needed to make content to try it out and see what would be necessary to build. So we have 2 rigs. There's one in Plano, Texas with me, and there's one with our California team in Mountain View currently. We're looking to build a couple more potentially in other places. But they have 72 cameras that are 2048 by 2880 cameras, 24 capture PCs, 16 stitching PCs. It's an 18 foot by 18 foot by 10 foot diameter rig, although it can be scooted back for larger capture areas. But in general, we stick to kind of an 8 foot by 8 foot capture area to keep the quality high right now. The output is POIs, GLTFs, and OBJs, so whatever 3D format you really want. And they range in size from 30 megs a frame to 250 megs a frame. And about 20 million polygons, but that's in a later slide. So we started this, we showed it publicly, so we started in 2014 making these rigs, but we didn't show it publicly until our Samsung Developer Conference in San Francisco last year, which is also coming up in October for anyone that happens to be in San Jose. We captured 601 people and reconstructed them that day in the rig. This is kind of what the rig looked like then. This is what the rig looks like now. It looks a little prettier. We kind of glossed it up some to look better in retail as a potential retail use case. But the 601 attendees did 3 different poses, put in their emails into a tablet, which you'll see in just a minute, and then got emails with their reconstructions. So these are just some of the captures that were done there. Obviously, people having fun. And the best 10 captures were printed as 3D models and sent to folks as well. So here's just a video of kind of how the capture experience works in the Dallas rig. So it all starts with a tablet application where you check the terms of service that says you're okay with someone capturing your volumetric identity. As we've talked about in some of the earlier presentations here, there's some sensitivity around your likeness being used in its entirety. So the whole thing's controlled with a tablet, so we can have this at a conference and be able to have 5, 10 tablets and get a queue going much quicker. It takes about 45 seconds for a person to get captured at a conference.
3, 2, 1. Smile, please.
And with that capture, we can make you talk. Obviously, deepfake could be run on this. This is just a bone animation of me, and as my wife will attest, I cannot dance. But yeah, so obviously kind of a gimmicky sort of just animation. We have auto rigging that lets us do this though quickly on lots of characters. We think just this kind of gamified fun thing is something that users will actually be interested in at a large scale. But our real goal is not these T-pose captures as much as it is true volumetric video. And our rig is built for true volumetric video at 30 frames a second. Just some feedback from the SDC folks. So many cameras in there, I think it may have taken a part of my soul. It's funny, I spent hours trying to model myself in 3D only to be scanned the next day. So obviously our folks at the conference had fun. These are the 2 rigs. Again, you have a large amount of storage is involved. So this rig generates 16 gigabytes per second. And then that has to be stitched into 3D objects. So we have lots and lots of machines. That's our horrible looking closet of servers that does the stitching in the Dallas rig. And again, with a T-pose, we can make you do anything, dance, talk, etc. This is my boss on the right, and I haven't been fired yet, so that's a good sign. And if you just want to have real fun, you can take the T-poses and make people dance whatever way you want. We actually captured our CEO as a way to kind of upsell volumetrics inside of Samsung. He's not pictured here, but again, you can have lots of fun and map folks to lots of different, video game type characters. But very uncanny valley, right? So, true volumetric video looks more like this. So, Daryl here, unfortunately, dances a little strange in his turfing, and he actually looks like a bad bone animation, but that's actually how he danced in the real world. But that's straight out of the rig, no editing, no touch-up, no designer involved, and running on a phone. So it's running on a Samsung S10, I believe. Can be at any scale, so Daryl again, down at a small scale, kind of for fun, and the app lets you kind of scale the characters to whatever size you want. AR Core is used here to lock the character in place. And obviously, as Samsung releases depth cameras on our new phones and depth cameras get better, occlusions and things of that nature will be much easier to do with this type of thing. This one kind of highlights, what a stadium experience might look like, or at least a fun experience at a stadium for guests. And obviously, as the person walks around with the phone, you can see all sides of this character that's captured in volumetrics. So we just yesterday announced a partnership with AT&T for people that you may know or may not know. This is American football, not European football, unfortunately. But yeah, take a picture with your favorite athlete and large-scale experiences at stadiums for folks that are at the stadium, if you want your favorite player to step on people on the field. So kind of looking at data rates, we've done a lot of research over, quality versus how large the data size is. Obviously, volumetrics are nice in that they don't usually need cleanup. Some of these were captured on older rigs. You can see the boxing lady has a little bit of white flakes in her hair that do need cleanup. There are always ways to occlude cameras on an outside end rig, so there are certainly cleanup situations that occur. So there's some expertise around volumetric capture stages so that you have to kind of minimize your editing. But you pay for it in the data size. So these are quite large, 34.8 megabytes per second, not something you can stream easily on today's networks. 29.4 is what the one on the right is. So we've started our own volumetric video format, what we call Samsung Volumetric Video, but we've also joined the MPEG standard for MPEG video point cloud coding, video-based point cloud coding, and the idea is it takes the 3D pieces, splits them into video frames, and then encodes them with existing HEVC technology to kind of pipe them through existing video platforms. There's several other large companies on this format, but I think standards are important for volumetric video. All the folks that have presented volumetric video or will present volumetric video, I'm sure, have their own formats, but I think the industry as a whole will eventually narrow down to one format. And that gets our file sizes way down. So we're no longer at megabytes, we're at megabits in these. So very streamable rates, 13 megabits per second, 7 megabits per second. And our Samsung Volumetric Video format is actually below these numbers. We kind of create an MPEG dash type HLS variant type situation where we have different variants for different connection speeds, and we vary the amount of voxels effectively that get sent across the network in different connection situations. So we have friends at Arcturus that have put together this map. I think a lot of people don't realize how many volumetric stages there are. Once you start looking for professional volumetric video stages, there are tons of them in the world. In fact, the next presenter has many of these as well. But yeah, lots of professional stages around the world to get volumetric captures done. And we are obviously in Dallas and Mountain View. But kind of the thought with our, why we're in volumetric video in general, AR, XR, and VR are here to stay based on the analytics. There's always more devices being made at Samsung that are wearables. And we kind of see volumetrics as, that format that 6 degree of freedom movement kind of requires. You have to capture not just the flat scene, you have to capture the whole scene. That's what you're used to seeing in the real world. So opportunities, we are looking for creatives to use these rigs to make storytelling in volumetric video. Again, we're not the storytellers. We have a list of partner volumetric companies that we can refer you to in your area. We're open to deploying or selling Samsung XR capture studios if there's content opportunities. We're trying to partner with Hollywood studios on content creation and distribution for this. And we're still gonna, be committed to distributing and selling 360 videos, doing 360 live events, and then also volumetric video as well as a format. And this is a horrible animation that my designer forced me to put in the PowerPoint presentation. But I think we got a few minutes left, actually, if there are any questions about 360 video, Samsung VR, Samsung XR, or volumetric captures.